It's been 6 weeks since I planted, so I'm going to do a little update and show you how big everything is and what everything looks like. So here's the top of the garden. Tomatoes are looking good. I've been pruning them so that they're removing all the suckers so they can climb straight up, and kind of trellising them. They're growing slower than they want them to, but everything is. The carrots are a lot bigger. It's 6 weeks. They've really filled in everything there. Probably need to thin them. That's what the tomatoes are looking like. And then the peppers are a lot bigger than when we first planted. This one's a big one. The beans are starting to take off. Some of them are kind of not looking good, but I don't know if that's the no-till. This side looks a lot better. That was actually planted. A lot more full, and they're getting a little bigger. At my home garden, they look good. I wonder if it's the compost from the no-till, or if I was overwatering. Because I was watering twice a day, and the cucumbers didn't like it, and they were dying. Had some leaves that were all crunched, and now they're starting to climb. And trellis, the trellis. The lettuce is all pretty big now, so I can harvest some of that. And then the cucumbers are starting to climb this. That's kind of fun. You can see cilantro, and then there's other herbs. They're growing. This one's kind of slow. I think this is cantaloupe. This one's slow. It's weird because they're like all over the place. Like this one is quite small. That one's a little bigger. This one's same plant, and it's huge. So the melons are kind of all over the place for me. The watermelon. This one was just tiny though, like that one last time 2 weeks ago, and now it's starting to take off. So maybe it just took a minute to get roots. And this one's just still tiny. Then we got some really big ones. The biggest one's down on the end. It's a big one, but there's a little bit of weeds there too. So the watermelon's taking off. We got honeydew. And it's weird because some are tiny, some are tiny, and then they turn into that in a couple weeks. So it's, I don't even know. I'm not a farmer, so I don't even know what's going on, but I'm gonna try to figure that out. I think that one died, but everything else is filled out pretty good. There's some flowers on some of them. The squash is doing real good. It's big, and the corn and the peas are just, or the beans are climbing up inside of there. There's some beans, and then the corn. There's another bean. But it seems like they're all fine and growing together. I think I just saw a squash in there. Yeah, so there's a squash starting to form. Going. Seems like once those start, they putting those on, they start going fast. Yeah, another little squash in there. So this row's all squash. And then these ones are the pumpkins that I started from seed. And the pumpkins are already big, so. Some of them. That one's a little bit smaller. And then down this way, there's some big ones. The marigolds look like they're doing really good too. They're like, this one's just bushing out. Oh, it looks like there is a pumpkin just starting here. But the corn It's already huge. So all those, and then we've got all the leftover tomatoes. I planted this all later because I had a bunch of leftover tomatoes, and I was like, hey, I might as well add it. So I planted these two, and then later, even later than that, I planted all this. So, but there's tomatoes on stuff. If you look down in there, there's some tomatoes right there. I don't know if you can see that. Tomatoes inside, and these ones all have tomatoes starting. And then I planted the corn. I planted 3 rows of corn. I need to weed it, but it's a lot harder to weed out here, this side. It's more compact. But then where I put a little bit of compost, it's really easy to weed. So I need to go and probably add some compost and then weed it, or weed it and add some compost. But the 3 rows I planted first with the sunflowers, and the 3 rows are all popped up, and then the corn's all up too on the next planting, because I planted these 2 weeks later because I ran out of emitters. And then all the sunflowers over here. Looks like a lot of water's down at the end here. But these are all big sunflowers, mammoth sunflowers on this end. But that's at 6 weeks. The only things I've harvested are some lettuce from here. So I haven't harvested anything. But I'll keep you updated on my first harvest and all that. Today I'm going to pick a bunch of cherries down there. So there's peaches and then a bunch of huge cherry trees. So go pick those today. I'm out picking cherries. Got the garden. You can see my garden up there. Up this way. Behind me. And then I've got all these cherries to pick. There's a billion. There's just one tree, and he's got probably 30 that are producing. He used to have 100, but he kind of let them go because sweet cherries are hard to pick. They take too long, and the labor cost is too high, so we just pick them ourselves.